Systems for hiring and onboarding team members, I think, are the key to building those successful teams. And what do I mean by that?
Hello, everybody. This is Jake Stenziano, host of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbo. Gino, how's it going?
Mr. Stenziano, I'm doing good. I like the hat today. I'm missing the gel. I wish you had some gel on. I can see the gel, but
it's there. You just can't see it.
But it's okay.
Your gel.
I'm doing great. How are you doing, bro?
Always making it happen, big man. Today's guest is Oscar Subirats. Oscar is a business and real estate investor who helps others build wealth and scale their businesses without sacrificing family, faith, joy, and quality of life. He's playing on the 5 F's, G-Dad. He's making it happen. So without further ado, Oscar, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for allowing me to be on here today. Excited about it.
Hey, it is our pleasure. Let's get this kicked off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in business.
Well, my first entrepreneurial venture was when I was actually a college athlete. I'm a tennis player. And when I was basically in college, had, like a lot of probably our listeners, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I just found a niche. I found a niche market helping students and athletes, primarily from other countries in the world, come to the United States to get recruited to compete in college. So we connect high school athletes from all over the world with college coaches. That's how I first got into business, and that business has just flourished over the last 20 years. We do business all over the world with that.
So how did you end up getting into the real estate space?
Well, I got into the real estate space because I grew up listening to mom and dad over the table talking real estate all day long. Both of my parents they're both immigrants, originally from Mexico, and they came to this country. My mom first started as a real estate agent. My dad first started as mortgages, and they just, over the last 40 years, started doing everything from commercial to, duplexes, to fourplexes, to, residential managing. So throughout my life, that's all I heard. That's all I heard every single day. I heard the fights. I heard the money. I heard everything. And so, I have it in my blood.
Why didn't you collect the rent, honey?
That was pretty much how it was all the time. And they really were just not really running a business. They were just two people, sole investors, sole real estate that, and we'll get in a little bit further into that, but that's kind of how I got started into all this.
So let's dive down into that a little bit more, because I think my background was very similar. My father owned the restaurant forever, 20 years, 25 years. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She'd do the books, and it was sort of the same thing. How didn't that turn you off after a while? Because for a lot of people, hearing parents fighting about a business that's doing okay, but every day can be soul-sucking, hearing of the problems and the grief and the strategy. How did you?
Now fires, right?
Yeah. How did you okay, where's the positive in this? How did you think the positive out of it?
Well, Gino, the problem is that I grew up believing that that's how businesses were run. So I grew up believing that you didn't actually build the business. I grew up actually believing that you started something and that was your job. And that's how it was with my parents it still is like that today. And so it isn't that it turned me off. I just simply assumed that you were supposed to, be running the job of being in real estate forever. And mom and dad kind of arguing about it, which I see all the time with partners fighting about it, or there's a lot of real estate investors that are husband and wife's team. I see them arguing about it a lot of time, but a lot of times they just don't know better because that's all they've ever been told or seen from someone else like both you and I did.
Now, Oscar and Jake, I've got to stop and talk for like 30 seconds because he's preaching to the choir. Because I was 38 years old, the Great Recession hits, and Papa Vito, which is my dad's name, you got to go to work. You got to put your head down. We've got one restaurant. You can't take risks. This is what we do every day. It gets boring. It's tiring. There's no scaling up. You can't replace yourself. And I've heard that my whole life. And if you're at that point in your life and you're struggling, the podcast is going to be powerful for you. Go to life coaching school because you have limiting beliefs right now, because that's how the old economy worked, where you could make a great living working at one job, making a lot of money. Nowadays, you have to leverage other people's time, other people's skill, other people's money if you want to get ahead, because you cannot work a 40, 50, 60 hour a week job and really get ahead and really live a powerful life. That being said, you can do what Jake and I have done and what Oscar's going to teach and what Oscar's doing. Get out of the limiting belief. I had one restaurant for 20-something years. I'm going to own over 1,500 units in 5 years. What did I change? I changed right here, and I changed the people that surround myself. That's all I've done differently. Didn't have any more money when I started out with. I just got around people who are like-minded like me, who wanted to change. I felt the pain. I still hold on to that pain. Jake, where was I Friday, 5 o'clock, 99 degrees? I was looking at
outdoors
because I don't want to go back to the restaurant. So you have to keep the hunger. I love what I'm doing, which is different, but just remember that you don't have to be that guy in a restaurant for 25 years washing dishes when it's 90 degrees outside. If you want to do that, that's fine. You don't have to.
G-Dad's getting passionate. For the folks that are not on YouTube, he was pointing to the mindset. He was pointing to the brain, said that's what changed, and then he was mixing the pot. So if you're not on the YouTube, check it out.
And it's true, though. I just want to finish by saying that you can make excuses all you want. I read T. Harv Eker's book about 10 years ago, and I said, this guy's a jerk. And I read the book again, and I said, no, I'm the jerk, because he's right. Your fruits or your roots are your fruits. I mean, you can continue and complain. I was responsible for my life up until 38 years old. I lived a certain way. If you want to become successful, success leaves clues. So go out there, find the clues, start doing what you need to do, and become responsible for your life. So,
right, Gino, if I could just add to that, for example, going back to my parents' example, they were wonderful, real estate investors, and they started from just selling houses and then flipping houses, then buying commercial property. But the reality is that every time they got into something else, whatever they had already done died. And so they did that for, probably 40 years. And my father passed away 4 years ago. And at the end of the road, my mom realized that there was no business there. It was basically them doing deals for their entire life, but never being able to actually set up a business where, hey, they were also doing commercial and also doing residential and also doing, mortgages and also doing managing, but they could have built the business that allowed them to do all that instead of basically the business dying. And nowadays, what do you have? My mom's 74 years old and there's no business. And so, I love what you're saying, because you got to get away from that. And that's what some people have been taught all their lives. But you get away from that and you can actually create a real business that has lasting value for your kids and your grandkids. And I wish they knew then what I know now.
And I'm not trying to hate on my family, what they did and what they've done, because they were super successful too. I had a great upbringing. I had a great childhood. We lived an upper middle class life. But if we had to replicate that lifestyle now, it's just not going to happen now, because my father had 4 partners. So he had one restaurant and he did very well. But I can see the last 10 to 15 years with the internet, with everything changing, with the economies of scale coming up, it's just a different economy. And he didn't build a business. That one restaurant right now, it's going to sell, but it's not going to sell for what you need to sell it for. And we didn't build that business. We didn't build systems. We didn't scale. We didn't multifamily like we should have with the restaurant. I started doing it, but then I met Jake, and Jake pulled me into Jake and Gino, and there goes the end of that story. So, Oscar, what is it that you see the real difference between how some investors get stuck in endless days of doing deals, while other investors build a successful investment company and not only make a lot of more money, but have a much better lifestyle and time freedom?
Well, I think we've kind of touched, the base of that is you have to start with the thought of, what are you trying to achieve? Are you building, are you just a real estate investor, or are you building a business, not a job? And I think that's the real difference with that mindset. We can talk, we'll get into a lot more details about that. But the reality is, I think the real difference is just understanding that you're far more than a real estate investor. You're a business owner. And as a business owner, you're trying to build value. You're trying to build lasting value. You're trying to build assets. You're trying to build something that is going to go beyond you so that you can go and have vacation and play golf and be with your family. And I think that's the real difference, that beginning mindset from the get-go, saying, hey, I'm not here just to do another deal. I'm here to do another deal because it's part of this business that I own.
I love that. So what Jake would like to say is transactions pay the bills. Equity makes you rich. And when we first bought our first property, it was a 25 unit. All we were looking to do was cash flow. We weren't even thinking of building a business because we didn't even know that, because we thought what every other landlord thinks about is that grind. Well, I've got to go change the toilets. I've got to go rehab this unit. That's not where the value is. The value is in actually building and scaling the business so you can hire employees. That's why multifamily far surpasses and much more successful in building a business than a single family home portfolio. What do you see?
If I can just interrupt you, I mean, there's a difference between success and having a life. So, for example, in both of our cases, I was the only Latino boy in a white neighborhood growing up. My parents gave us a great life, but the reality is that, there's a difference between being successful and actually building a business that's going to give you a life, a lasting life, but not only a quality of life. And so, we're kind of saying the same thing there, but, it's a lot more than just making money on an everyday basis. And I think that's a big difference between someone that has money and enjoys life and someone that just, buys and sells assets and doesn't really have a life.
Mm-hmm. What do you see as the biggest mistake that investors make in terms of building a business?
I think that at the beginning, you have to know, is the objective for me to sell? Is the objective for me to scale? Is the objective for me to own passively? And what ends up happening is that, a lot of real estate investors, they don't really know what it is that they want to achieve from the very beginning. They just don't know what they want to achieve. A lot of people get into real estate investing because a friend told them about them, or they think, hey, it's going to be easy to do this. And so they really don't start out with any sort of goal in mind. And I think that you have to do that in order to not get into the job of it. In other words, am I doing the deal just to do the deal, or am I doing the deal because my goal is to own a real estate investment company passively, or to scale that, or to eventually one day sell that? And that keeps you away from getting into the micromanaging part of it. And that's the answer to your question is, if I don't have an actual goal of building the business, I'm just going to get in the micromanaging part of building it. I'm going to get into the everyday tedious things of doing the next deal. And I'm not going to be able to focus on how am I going to build this real estate business. I'm going to spend my time doing all those little things, what we call D-level activities, that keep me from being able to, scale and build that business.
Jake, I love that, because we had a weekly lesson yesterday and we talked about the 3 pillars of real estate from one of our coaches. It's debt, market cycle, and exit strategy. So Oscar's talking about all 3 of those, right? What's your exit strategy? Are you just buying this to buy it to cash flow? Are you buying it to flip it? Are you buying it to hold it, to create a company? And I think our inflection point was around 650 units, where we said to ourselves, we're amassing all these properties. What are we going to do now? It's time to build a business, right? We're a little slow, Jake and I, we figured it out. We're like,
we'll get there eventually.
We need property management software professional, right? Instead of doing notes of paper and stuff. So I think if people can really think about that before they get into the business and start building up, that's going to be really powerful and really helpful for them to do that.
Well, Gino, when, at Maui Mastermind, we, one of the things that the listeners can really do right now is the 4 Ds. Okay. When you're just running a job, you don't actually think it's about changing your mindset to say, okay, is what I'm doing today to do this deal make any sense? And it comes down to the 4 Ds. And what are the 4 Ds? You look at what you're doing every day in your business and say, okay, so what of this can I delegate? What of this can I delegate with someone that I can pay them less than $25 an hour to do? If I can get someone else to do that for less than $25 an hour, or for some people maybe more, why am I doing it? So you're not investing your time correctly. Then then you can delete it. What am I doing that doesn't make any sense at all? So, there's a lot of investors out there that are focused on certain deals that they don't even need to be doing. They just need to be deleting those deals, and it's focusing on their time on the wrong deal, maybe too far away, maybe not the right deal, maybe not the right market, maybe not the right time, but they get stuck on those because they don't delete it. So you got delegate, you got delete, defer. What are you doing now that simply can wait, right? So again, going back to the deal, am I doing this deal at the right time just because it sounds good and just because I'm passionate about it? But maybe I need to defer that deal 3 months, 6 months, or whatever it is that I'm doing a little bit further. So, when you do the 4Ds, you consistently question yourself if what you're doing is centered around building a business or just doing an everyday job. And I think I only said 3 Ds: delete, delegate, defer, and design out. So what is it that I'm doing that I could design out? You continually have to ask yourself the question, how can I design out what I have to do today so that I don't have to do it all over again? So, if you're collecting rents or if you're managing properties, well, there's a lot of tedious things that take place into that can easily be designed out by systems that would allow you not to do that anymore, so that you can go focus on the next big deal or something that has more value. So you got to think about the 4 Ds if you're going to be successful in business.
One great tool that we've adopted over the last few years is Google Docs. And when you're talking about systematizing, we just got off a call before this podcast, and one of our team members was building out a training manual. And I said, look, just always make sure that it's going in the Google Doc. We're systematizing it. And he's putting, hey, this is when it was updated, and it's being very well systematized. So we use that very well. The overarching theme that I'm getting from these 4 Ds is simplification of life. Gino turned me on to this guy, Rick, the other day, who was talking about how entrepreneurs that fail add too much clutter and junk into their lives. All this makes for simplification. You got to get the crap out of your life so you can focus on the things that are going to move the needle. And I think that's what it really comes back to. It's pretty impactful.
Yeah. Have you guys ever heard, for example, of I do this all the time. I do it with all my employees. Something called a time value matrix. You basically, and this is another Maui Mastermind tool, that you basically grab everything that you do in one day, and you say, okay, which are my A activities, which are my B activities, which are my C activities, which are my D activities? Okay, those D activities need to be either delegated, deferred out, designed out, or deleted. You really don't need to be doing that. And so when you do that throughout the day, you say, man, do I really do all this stuff throughout the day? And you realize how much stuff doesn't add any value. And so it allows you to say, okay, what is the value that I'm bringing to myself as a real estate investor? What is the value that I'm bringing to my real estate business? And you got to focus on those A activities. And you're right, Jake, it is about simplifying. But what happens is most people, they hear that, but they don't know, how do I do that? What are the steps to do that? And that's why we have some, just awesome tools that David Finkel's put together at Maui Mastermind that allow you to do those things so that you can simplify from the 4 Ds to the time value matrices.
And Oscar and Jake, I'm going to beat myself up again on this, because this is something I'm going to give people some practical knowledge on how to apply what Oscar's talking about. When I was at the restaurant, what I should have done was I should have walked into the restaurant and I should have designed everything that happened from the very first touch point of a customer. When I walk in, what does the host say? Hostess. How do you answer the telephone? How do you get greeted? How do you pack food? Every single thing that's going on in your business, spend a couple of days going through it. Don't overwhelm yourself. If I had done that, it would have been so much easier to onboard the next employee coming on board. Then I would have been doing some kind of, as far as some kind of training with these employees. I didn't have a training manual. They would come on because I was a mom and pop. I was there. I was training them. I should have delegated that out also, so it would have freed my mind to do other things. So you can start going really small and start picking apart every single part of your business. If it's the real estate part, start with the property management company. When they walk into that office, what does Jake like to say? That property manager better get up and better greet that person. You better get them a root beer. It better be smelling great in that office. That's the first thing. How do they answer the phone? Take a look at every single component of your business and start breaking it down, and try to think of it as you're building a franchise for your business. And then once you start doing that, it'll be easy to replicate the next property you buy, because the next office is going to look like the first office, whether it's clothing, whether it's the way they answer the phone, whether it's how they greet the person, whether it's what they give the person. I mean, Oscar, do you want to continue on with that thought on how else you can continue to build out and systemize your business?
Well, yeah. So one of the keys is that when somebody hears, oh, I need to create systems, they start hyperventilating. They think that it's this incredible complicated process where they're going to have to call Oracle and, spend $1 million. And it's not like that. There's so many rudimentary systems that can help you run your business so efficiently that when you think systems, just think systems are things that make you either not have to do what you do every day, or systemize it so that someone else can do it with a certain control. So one of the keys, I think, in getting people to actually use the systems is for you not to just create systems to create systems. Okay, so I know that sounds a little bit ironic that I said, well, you got to create systems, but you just can't create systems to create systems. What am I talking about? I see this with business owners all the time, with my employees all the time. Once somebody says, okay, I need to just create the system. And so they create a little system in an Excel sheet and they start to use it, but they don't really tell anyone else what the purpose of that system is. Mm-hmm. And so what you have is a system
of execution.
Right. Yeah. You have a system that is created, but it's not self-sustaining over the long run. So I continually get my employees come up to me and say, hey, look what I created. And I said, well, that system, it's going to die in 30 days. Why? Because it's so complicated that you're not going to be able to continue using it, and no one else is going to use it. So one of the keys to building systems is actually very practical. What you do is you decide, okay, what system do we need this quarter to make whatever it is that we're designing it for no longer necessary, or that we need to, or that can be delegated or deferred or deleted out. What one system? So you focus one at a time, or you can focus two at a time, but you really want to focus one at a time, one major system. And so you put it in your, what we call it at Maui, our quarterly action plan, our one-page plan, and David Finkel talked about that last time. And so what ends up happening when you do this system as a company, you say, okay, we're going to design this system, but the company and your employees and you know what the system is for, why you're doing it, and really what the importance of it is. So the key to getting your team and you to use systems is to not just create systems to create systems, but create systems in the mind that this has to be a lasting system used by others, built together as a team in a way, so that everyone's on board. If you're just creating little systems here and there, what I've seen business owners that have all these different Excel sheets, and guess what? None of them have been opened in the last 5 years.
I love that.
Yeah, and the other thing too is if you have input from the employees on them, they're more likely to adopt something that they've contributed to versus being dictated to. So I think that's another good point that you make.
And another thing is, for example, you talked about it before, we call it a UBS, Universal Business System Maui, but what it is, it can be a Dropbox, it can be a Google Docs, it can be, there's different cloud-based areas where you can have your information, but every little thing that you do in your business cannot stay in your mind, Jake and Gino, or another business owner. It has to be put somewhere where your employees and your team can have access to it. So, for example, in my own company, it's hilarious when I'm sitting in front of a restaurant with just someone, a business owner, and I say, "Can I ask me how to do anything in my business? Anything. If you were to work for me today, ask me how to do anything in the business." And he'll say, "How do you do this?" And I'll just pull up my cell phone. I'll open up my Dropbox. I'll search, "How do you do this?" And there will be a clear action step, one page of how to do that task in the business. And that really is impressive. Why? Because I could get hit by the bus tomorrow, and someone could come over and take over my business, which is what allows me to do a lot of the other things that I love to do. But the point is that those systems not only have to be created, but they have to be in a place where your team and yourself can access them at any time, search for them, and what ends up happening is now you've created a company that's not in your brain. You've created a company that's actually usable by others.
So Jake, we're going crazy. We're doing 3 1/4. We're doing top grading, which is like for hiring. We're doing our customer journeys, right? And we're doing ADP for employees. And we're at the point that we need to do this because we're starting to scale. We need to be efficient. And I think our team members are doing a fantastic job because we're leading, but at the same time, we're getting amazing input from them. And they're the ones who are boots on the ground. So I agree with Oscar completely and Jake. You need to include your employees in the process. What do you think, Jake?
Man, I just said it, 100%, man.
It's exciting to hear that you're actually doing something right. You know what I mean? We're not fumbling, bumbling. We're figuring it out, but just building the business is an exciting thing to do.
And it's a lot of work on the front end. Like to Oscar's point, you have to put the time into this and then see it through and then make sure it's organized appropriately, or it basically falls out. And there's going to be times I think, and Oscar may not agree with this, but you're gonna kind of stray away from where you want to be with your systems, but it's there and you can come back to it. Someone may be getting out of line and it's time, hey, we need to recalibrate this and ground back into where this needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jake, what you won is when, an employee or a team member or whatever, it could be your property manager, it could be whoever's managing the property manager, it's whoever you have as your personal assistant helping you all those tedious things. When they come to you and they say, how do I do this? And you say, well, did you already look it up in the UBS? And they give you this look like, no, I didn't use my brain. Let me go look at that, look that up. And they have the answer. And so what it allows you to do is simply step away from your business and allow it to run without you. And when you've really won is when your assistant or your employee or your property manager or whoever comes up to you and says, I had a great idea and I've already put it into the UBS. You're like, wow, we've won, because now they're helping you create the systems. So you create this culture in your business that, and this is how I run my businesses. You're not allowed to keep things in your head that are of value. You're just not. And we live in this culture that I have to feel important, and so I can't share that information with someone else. No, you have to build a culture that you're all in this together. If the business flourishes, everyone's going to flourish. So at the end of the day, if you have something brilliant in your head, it has to go into that UBS. Why? Because we want everyone else in that company brilliant. So that's really, really important when your employees or your team members are coming up with those systems and putting them in the UBS. Man, you've won. You've absolutely won.
The other cool thing about it is when you're going over your KPIs and something that's off, and you can go to an employee and you're having a coaching call with them, trying to work through it, and they're doing something that's wrong, you can come back to these docs and you're not recreating the wheel. It's, hey, we made a mistake here, let's diagnose it, and then we're just coming back to it. And it's a much quicker way to analyze and overcome problems and get back on track. That's what I love about it.
So Oscar, could you give us an example or two of a real estate system that you've implemented with students you've been working with?
Well, as far as the team, what I would say is systems that are systems for onboarding and systems for hiring and onboarding team members, I think, are the key to building those successful teams. And what do I mean by that? If you're looking in your real estate investment company to, hire someone else that's going to help you close the deals, or if you're going to hire someone else, even to partner with you, or hire someone else to help you do a lot of those CD level activities, most people just the day they decide to hire, they say, well, I need a personal assistant. I need a personal assistant to help me do these things. And what they do is they don't actually design out in any way that job or what that person is going to do. They just hire them. So once they hire them, guess what? Now I have the job of training and managing this person to do the job that I wanted to do. And that takes up, a month or 2 or 3 of their time. And the purpose that they hired them for is completely opposite what they end up doing. So you have to first create some sort of system for your hiring. What does it mean? What do you want them to do? What's the task? What are the objectives? What are the KPIs? What's their goal? What's their everyday? And you have to put this, and I know this takes time and some people are hyperventilating, but if you take 1 week out of your time, it may take you a couple days to create this. It's going to save you 3 months of work, right? And then once they come on board, if you simply take the time to create the systems for that onboarding process, you're going to save so much time. So I'll give you a perfect example. When I'm hiring a sales guy, I've trained and I hire just an absorbent number of salespeople. Okay. And what ends up happening is when I first started in business, it would take me, I would personally do the training. And so I could train one person at a time because of course I'm the smart guy, right? And they have to have all my knowledge. So I'm the one that has to train them. What I've now done is I take the time to every single process and everything that's in my brain and every single thing that they need to do to be able to clone me basically is in some sort of video, some sort of YouTube, some sort of training video, and so it takes me, and I'm not exaggerating guys, it takes me 7 days to train a new salesperson. Why? Because I don't even have to speak to them. I motivate them or whatever, but that's the key. You have to create those systems before you hire and bring in awesome salespeople or awesome team members so that when they come on, those systems are in place. And that key is systems to train, systems to hire, and systems to onboard. And if you do that, you're going to be able to clone the things that need to be done without you having to spend the time to do them. I know that was a lot, but it's
no, but I think it's not, the key to it is putting it down into some sort of funnel or prioritization sheet and eating a little bit at a time, because if you just try to do it all at once, it's going to freak you out. So, hey, number one, this week, we're going to work on onboarding sales reps, and that's going to be the system we work on. And then you're going to have 15 other ideas behind it. So it's prioritizing them, what's the most important, and then eating it a little bit at a time, because you actually have a business to run as well as you're implementing this stuff, if you haven't done any of this yet.
Right. Yeah, Jake, and it doesn't take one day. And again, a lot of times when we go into this, I mean, it's so powerful and there's so much behind it that people say, well, I'm going to continue running the business the way that I run it because it's too complicated. And it's not. You hit it right there on the money, Jake. You have to say, what is the priority for me to focus on when I bring in a new team member? What type of team member are going to bring in? And you create that system. And you just take 2 hours out of your day or 1 hour out of your day of running the business to create this little, to create this funnel. And it may take you a week, it may take you 2 weeks, but guess what? You'll never have to do it again. And that's the key. So when you do the next hiring, you do that again. And so systems are not created in one day. What I described to you where, I can pull up anything in my own company, that took time. But guess what? It's so valuable because it allows me to live the life that I want to live and do.
And you're always adding to it.
You're always adding to it. You're always adding. A system is never fully complete.
Yep.
So the cool thing about this is if you don't know how to do it, you find someone like Oscar to help you to do it, because it can be overwhelming. And then once you start it once, you're going to get hooked, and then you're going to see everything. Wow, I can do this for every part of my business. And I can give you a couple of tips. What I like to do is I like to do it early in the morning. When I get up in the morning when nobody's around, it's quiet. I can think. I'm at my best. I'm not tired. I'm not burned out from the day. And the second thing is schedule it. Put it in your calendar to work on your systems 1 hour a day or 2 hours a week or whatever it is. You need to put it in the calendar so you get it done and don't waste time by doing it.
Gino, another thing that I think is very important to mention to the listeners about, making a great team in a real estate investing company is that ultimately you have to hire good people. And I know that seems silly to say that, but a lot of the times we hire people with our emotions because we think that person's going to be, great for whatever it is that we're hiring them for. And we're just hiring a pain in the butt. And so when you hire, if you take the time to build out what kind of person that you want, you're going to hire good people that are going to bring value to your business and that you're not going to have to be fighting with all the time. And so a lot of real estate investors, I've seen it all the time. They partner with people that are not like them, bad marriages, just because that other person has the money or because that person has the right connections. And they don't hire. My mother always said, you marry with your brain and not with your heart. And it's the same thing, it's true. It's true. And so, it's the same thing with building a real estate investing company. You can't just always partner with the wrong people, because one of the things you hear is, I wish I could get rid of my partner, right? And so you have to hire good people, and also realize that when you hire people that are under you to help you run the real estate investment company, you have to remember that a lot of people are not motivated by what you're motivated, Jake, and what you're motivated, Gino, and people like me are motivated. They're motivated by money and growth. And, a lot of people just want to be motivated by being part of that, being part of something important that you're building. And so you have to keep people motivated. You have to make them feel like they're part of it. And when you create systems, guess what? They feel that it's not your company. They feel like they're helping to create and grow the company. And sometimes that helps you hire people that are going to work for you 5-10 years instead of the guy that comes in and is not a good team player and just wants to make a bunch of money and you lose them 6 months later.
I love that. Let me ask, this is the last long answer question. What is your best building advice or tip for the listeners?
My best building advice is that you have to stick to something. And you guys see this all the time with real estate investors, especially amateur, young real estate investors. You got to stick to something. Being a successful real estate investor or being a successful business owner in any way, is not a 3 month, 6 months, 9 month process. It takes time. And the one advice that I give, younger people any other time is find something that you love that makes financial sense and stick to it. And if you do that, what ends up happening is 90% of the people don't stick to they don't stick to anything. They're what I call professional part-timers. They're professional part-time mortgages, then they're professional part-time real estate investors, then they're professional part-time Airbnb, they buy residential real estate, then they're professional part-time. And I know people like this. And what ends up happening is they're not successful in any of those things because they don't focus. They're always jumping on the next great thing. And, I know my brother's going to kill me for saying this, but he's a professional part-timer.
Oh,
I have a cousin who's a professional part-timer, and I tell them all the time, okay, you told me a month ago that you were going to be, get into real estate investing and get all excited about Jake and Gino, but now you're telling me that you're just going to start flipping houses, and you got to focus on something. And so in my own world, in my own company, I've focused on the same thing for 20 some years. And that's why I own a worldwide company that does, business everywhere. And it's the same thing with whatever real estate investing that I do. I don't take it lightly. I actually take the time to say, okay, is this something that will last, or am I just getting excited about the next thing? I think that is such a great business building advice. Stick to what works, what you're passionate about, and you can't be jumping around the next thing 3-6 months later.
All right, we're going to avoid the shiny objects. I got a couple hiring tips because I want to jump in earlier, but we're using top grading, but we're also using top grading with our core values aligned in it when we're doing the phone screens and the face-to-face interviews. So if you don't have core values, it's something you really got to pin down because it's what you hire and fire off of, and it really makes a big difference. I always say to Gino, I poo-pooed them back in my corporate days. Core values are everything. So with that being said, let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor. Gino, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. I know that you've been hard at work helping Jake and Gino students do just that using our framework. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
Guys, we've been hard at work growing our community of like-minded investors, and the results of our members has been nothing short of incredible. We're looking to grow this amazing group. What we're looking for is those who want to follow our proprietary framework that we've created. Buy right, manage right, and finance right. Leverage our connections, education, and mentorship as ways to take your business to the next level.
So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become a part of our amazing community, apply to work with us at jakeandgino.com/apply. All right, we are back. We're gonna dive into the personal success side. We're dive a little bit into Oscar right now. What is your best habit for success personally?
Okay, can I do 3?
You can bring the pain.
I'm going to bring 3 because they're a real value. This is a hard question because there's just 3 things that I do that I think change lives. One is, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of working above the line. And so what I do is every morning, the first thing that I do when I sit on my desk is I say, okay, how much time do I have available today? Is it 1 hour because I'm going to go play golf? Is it, do I actually have an 8-hour day? And so I work above the line and I say, okay, what are the 2 things that I want to, because you can have a task list of 50 things, right? But there's always 2 to 3 things of those that are more A value that will impact your day and help you move and grow the business more than anything else. So what ends up happening is people sit down at their desk and say, oh gosh, I got 50 things to do on my task list. Well, you got to work above the line. Say, okay, today I have how many hours available? What are the 2 things that I want to accomplish before 3 p.m. or 5 p.m.? So you do two business things and 1 personal thing. So for example, if I were to sit down today, my first thing may be hiring that next sales guy. My second thing may be creating a system for my personal assistant, and then the third thing may be going and getting my driver's license. So when you work above the line, you always feel at the end of the day that you accomplished the fewer better. You accomplished something that made sense. So the mistake people do, and the reason they have no quality of life, is they get done with their workday and they say, I didn't accomplish anything. all I did today was do a bunch of tasks, but I really didn't accomplish anything of value. So that would be the first thing, work above the line. The other thing that I do is I have push and focus days. What that means is that on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I just push my businesses. I just push the businesses. I answer emails, I take phone calls, I just do the running the business. But Tuesdays and Thursdays, I turn off my phone, I turn off my email, I turn off the WhatsApp, I turn off the text messaging, and I focus primarily and only 2 or 3 hours on building whatever it is that I'm building to grow that business. So those are called focus days. And what you ends up happening is that you create incredible value for your business. So it might be creating a system, or it might be finding that next deal, or it might be, but at the end of the day, you have to have push and focus days. And number 3 for me, I think it's very important to mention, for me, it's prayer. I wake up every morning and I'm grateful for absolutely everything that I have. And then I just pray for direction. I just pray for direction that whatever deal that I'm doing will be the right deal. And I think that those 3 things can really change lives and everything.
Nice. I like that. What about a tool or resource to help folks scale their businesses?
Our tools or resources, I would definitely go to MauiMastermind.com. There's a lot of the tools that I described right now, you can download for free at MauiMastermind.com. So you can actually download a time value matrix. You can download a 1-page quarterly action plan. You can download those tools that allow you to do some of the things that I've described to today. Because if you're thinking, how do I even get started? Like how do I create the systems? Well, what ends up happening is you need tools to kind of guide you step to step to do that. So my recommendation is if you want to build the kind of business that I've described today, go to MauiMastermind.com, download the free tools, and get started.
What about a book recommendation that's helped you in your life?
I don't think it was meant to be a business book in any way or a real estate book. But there's a couple books that I love. I love Outliers. I don't know if you know Outliers from Malcolm Gladwell.
Yep.
It's just such a fascinating book on how, lets you realize where you've come and the potential that you have regardless of where you come from. So I love that book. I love, I know I'm preaching here, but I love David Finkel's Scale. I think the book Scale takes you step by step into a lot of the things that I'm describing today. So if you download those tools and pick up that book, you're going to be way on your way to creating awesome systems. I love the book Entree Leadership by Dave Ramsey. I think that's a wonderful book to help you start how to do really, really good teams. So those are some great books that I love.
All right. So Oscar walks into a bar. He's got his 2 employees there. They're just starting a business, early days, limited resources. What's the best tip that you can give young Oscar and his 2 employees to help scale their business with limited resources?
Oh man. So first I would say is, find out what you love to do. You can't live a life doing something that you hate to do every day. And guys, in business, as a business coach, I run into this all the time. Just people, they're not excited about their business. You have to be excited about your business. Passion, hard work is great. Okay. It'll help you build money, but passion will help you build wealth. Okay. So you have to have passion. And so that would be my first advice. And my second advice would be, before you start building this business, I would say build it with systems, teams, and controls in mind. Don't just start working. Educate yourself. Read some of the books that I've mentioned. Get some tools and start building this business from day one that way. Even if it means slower. And the third thing, I would say have a great circle of friends. I've been blessed my whole life to have very successful, wealthy friends. I've lived in very wealthy places like Boca Raton, Florida. I have awesome friends that I can tap into for investing and for opportunities. So I would say surround yourself with winners. You have to surround yourself with winners your whole life. You have to seek them out. They're not easy to find, but once you find them, you have to hold on to them. And those friendships, they always say friends are more valuable than gold. So those are, I think, three powerful, very powerful words of wisdom on how to have success in business.
So once you have a little bit of success, get a vacation or an apartment down in Boca that you can go visit time to time, and then start networking. What's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me is I'll give you my email, oscar@mauimastermind.com, or they can just go to mauimastermind.com and they can reach out to me. But best way, just email me directly, oscar@mauimastermind.com. Be happy to answer any questions that they have.
G-Dad, what you thinking?
The 4Ds.
The 4Ds.
Delegate,
Deliver.
delete, defer, and design. Those are the 4Ds. I think everyone should start with that. Go read the book that David wrote, that Oscar recommended. Great book. Just don't start building a business to make money, because that's not going to be lasting, right? I call it the Trinity. I call it work hard, work smart, and then work with passion. And then if you can work hard, you need to work hard. Everyone poo-poos that. It's a lot of work. It's really hard to start a business, but then you have to start working smart, which means implementing these systems that we're talking about, right? And then once you've done that and you become financially free, then you start working passionately. Dude, all three of those put together, you're gonna lead a great life. So get to it, become clear. Jake, no shiny object syndrome. If you want multifamily, stick to it, because it took us 18 months to get our first deal. It really did. And I was coaching and I had the education, and I bought during 2013 when there were tons of deals out there, and it took us still 18 months to do it. But then after that first deal, we got our second deal 3 months later, and then 6 months after that. So stick with it.
One thing if I can mention there is
Sure.
that, it sounds easy sometimes when me or you guys say, that you're doing the deals, and some people are asking themselves, yeah, but I'm so busy to do these deals and go look for them. They have to realize that everything that I described to them today is about getting the freedom from your everyday life to go out and find and scale and build those deals. So, I got into business coaching because I have the time and I want to help others. But it took me to create first a business and businesses that run themselves to do that. And so I love, finding the next real estate deal. I'm not into, multifamily right now. I'd love to get into it. But the point is I have the time to do that because I've built those businesses. And that's what I think that your listeners need to understand, that it's not about making you work harder. It's about making you work smarter so that you have the time to enjoy life, to do the things that you love, but ultimately to go and find those next deals.
I love
So
that.
here's the deal. Oscar is going to be at our live event this fall. So you better, do two things. Get a ticket, because he's going to have a free gift there waiting for you. It's going to be awesome. You're going to be able to meet him and learn all about systems. And then in addition to it, he brought a lot of value on this show. So get over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review, thumbs up, and we will see you in October, Gino.
I hope I'll see you later today. I don't want to wait till October to see you. I'm going to go through some Jake withdrawal. So anyway, everyone, thanks for listening. Oscar, appreciate the time today. And any parting words?
One parting word I would say is thank you very much for having me on the show. I think it's been of real value. The other thing is I forgot to mention, David is coming out with a new book September 2nd, September 3rd, which is the Freedom Formula. That is, a version of everything that we've described today. So pick that up. Because if you want to build this kind of business, it can be done, and I'm living proof that it's possible.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.